Hi, my name's Jason.
And I'm Carmen.
We're from Elevated Experience Camping, where we do Alberta glamping and Alberta camping.
Yes.
Awesome.
So today we're here to talk about winter survival camping because we live in Alberta. So what is it now?
Winter.
Winter. Exactly.
It's not spring, it's not fall. What's that other dirty word?
And crazy enough, people in Alberta or all across Canada like to still camp in the winter. So we thought we'd talk about it. And as always, we start off with our quote of the day, which is cold air, dark night, warm fire, bright stars. Which I'm not actually a winter camper, but that does make me want to go outside.
Yeah. To be in fact, we went for a nice little walk yesterday, did we not?
We did.
And I'm going to do the fun fact, which is in the Antarctica, there's every winter there is 50 people left there in complete self-isolation. They're scientists for the most part, and they're left there for 8 months of the year.
Which I actually don't think is a fun fact because that sounds absolutely miserable to me.
Yeah, I could be left alone with 50 people 8 months. That wouldn't be bad. All right.
So we thought we'd start out with talking about some the top tips for survival camping or survival camping in the winter.
Yeah.
So tip number 1 is actually prepare for winter camping.
Mm-hmm.
It is different than summer camping. So you need to expect the elements are going to change drastically from warm to very cold. You have to make sure that your preparation of food is much more simple. You need to expect that stuff is going to get cold, wet, and you need to be prepared for to be able to change out your clothes a lot.
Yeah, for sure. You should be dressing in layers, and just even the other day, it went from when we woke up -15 to +2, and we went from a snowstorm, like we were having not a snowstorm, but we had snow, and then we were in the middle of a Chinook, a Chinook-esque, I guess it would say, but we had winds of I don't know, it was blowing our roof around, so it was pretty quick there. So yeah.
Second survival.
Yeah, is go back to warm bed.
Go to bed warm.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. What they say is make sure that when you go to bed, you don't go to bed cold because it'll, that saying, it'll get in your bones. You'll just never get a good night's sleep and your body won't rest. And then it won't be rejuvenated to be prepared for the elements the next day.
So what are some of the things that you could do to keep your bed warm, Carmen?
Definitely to keep your bed warm. I actually read this, that you should fill up your water bottle with boiling water and put it at your feet, which I thought was actually very ingenious and made sense because we have little dogs, and if you actually read what they're good for, what they started out for, was in the cold weather, they would be at the people's foot of the beds to keep their feet warm. So I was like, very smart idea.
Yeah, and it's because you lose so much heat from your if you're from the top of your head and your feet, that's where really the most heat should be. Also, I've done some winter camping where we would take those 2-hour hand warmers, and we'd throw a bunch in our sleeping bags. We'd have 5 or 6 of them just spread out throughout, and you would be surprised on how much heat those generate to your body. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So the third one is eat for warmth and energy. So again, when you're winter camping, sometimes it's not about what is yummy for the tummy necessarily, or your favorite food or your favorite snack food, what we're used to when we're sitting around the campfire in the summer. It's more about eating for food that is warm and cozy and that's going to warm up your insides, and food that is going to give you energy, so that because when you're in the elements, you exude more energy, and so you need to eat things that will rejuvenate your body.
Yeah, so what kind of things are those, like
Nuts.
Nuts.
Protein.
Yeah, exactly. We we've taken granola, we've done, you do a good trail mix. Those things, those always give you high protein bars. Those are great things to take with you.
And again, that nuts and protein bars and stuff, it will go with the elements. So whether it's cold or warm, it's not going to get, defrost and get too hot or freeze up so you can't cook it. It's something that you can access almost all the time.
Yeah, so those things are always good to have on hand. And also we, to bring soup, like, I know you love cup of soups. I know they don't, it does help with the energy levels, so that it's, you always get that something, those cup of soups, and they're nothing to make those, right?
For sure. All right, so our next tip is pack the snow. And what do you think I mean by that, Jason?
I think that you're really talking about building up basically a windrow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would pack up, so make a wall around your campsite, so that the snow can actually work as a wind barrier from your from your tent, right?
Exactly. It's really that idea, like almost like an igloo. I know lots of people think, how can people live in igloos? And they actually are quite warm and can isolate you, and people live quite easily in them. And so that's that idea. If you pack snow around you very tightly and that it's compact, it will keep you safe from some of the elements.
You're not talking about packing around your sleeping bag. You're around, yes.
Yeah.
So, perfect. And our next tip would be stay dry.
Yeah, which I think is pretty self-explanatory, but it's that whole idea, and I mean, we've all done it, like especially in the summer, you go out, you get a little wet because it's raining, you get a little wet on your shirt, you don't go running home and change your shirt. Usually it's just like, let it dry in 20 minutes, half hour. That's something you can't do in winter camping. As soon as something gets wet, you need to take it off and remove it, because you can cause yourself hypothermia. Again, you're going to bring your body temperature down, your energy down. You're going to get the coldness into your bones, and that's when you don't think straight, and there are risks that can happen.
Perfect. You were saying hypothermia. Just in case somebody doesn't know that's watching the video, what is hypothermia?
So hypothermia is basically when your body is starting to shut down because it's cold, but you don't actually realize how cold your body is. So you kind of you can eventually lose consciousness, but you lose sort of understanding what's happening to yourself. So your body's reacting to the cold element, and it's making you kind of fuzzy and incoherent. A lot of people think people with hypothermia have been drinking, because all of a sudden they kind of become disorientated. And of course, as soon as that starts to happen to your body, you have obviously less ability to react to the hypothermia and resolve the problem. And people die from hypothermia all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just as a fun fact, we also had this...
well, it's not a fun fact.
Well, it wasn't a fun fact, but it was a
fact
that we had a couple of gentlemen who were... So it doesn't just happen in the winter, it does happen in summer, but we had some guys in the river and they ended up with hypothermia. It's because their body core got dropped down too much, and they ended up not doing well, but everybody was okay in the end. And
And just to further that happened on an August long weekend when we were in a heat wave.
Yeah,
so it can happen at any time.
Yeah, perfect. Staying on the topic of staying dry, you should really wear base layers, right? So multiple thin layers, just not one set of clothing, right?
For sure.
Change your socks more than you need, because your body sweats, and that's another thing too, is that your body needs is wetness, and if it doesn't expel that water out, it's you can catch hypothermia from your own sweat.
Mm-hmm. And just to even further on your thing about basic layering is so important, and having lots of thin layers, because especially in our climate, even in the winter when the sun comes out and is beating down on that white snow, it can feel quite warm. Like all of a sudden it can feel like, oh my goodness, like I'm in a heat wave, even though you're not, but it's just the idea that the sun is beaming down and reflecting on that white snow. So people often will like strip down, but then you strip down too much, right? And so that thin layer allows for your body just to slowly get, readjust.
Perfect.
So our next tip is start all your fall and winter trips early in the morning. So again, in that summer, sometimes when we're camping, we like to sleep in, relax, start our mornings a little late. In the fall and winter camping, you should really start your trips early. And that's basically because your body is fresh, it's full of energy, it's ready for the morning. Starting your trips later in the day, your body's not as prepared for the elements.
Yeah, so that's definitely a great tip. It's like, and people, we have a son who would go winter camping, and he hated it, and he did it through Scouts. And he would not leave the tent, and they had to force him out most days. But he wouldn't get out till noon, and then he would be freezing. And
that's the other thing, right?
Because and then he thought the blankets were warm, so because they were, but he wouldn't get going, right? So they had to pull him out all the time. So not a winter camper, that kid.
No. So our next tip is to remember that snow is variable. And what we mean by that is that you can go from fresh, soft, light, fluffy snow that's wet that you can ball up to make snowmen. You can get really hard, packed down snow that, a huge moose can walk on top of the snow. You can have avalanche snow. It's just that to really remember that when you're traveling, especially through your trips, when you're winter camping or hiking, is that the snow can change as you walk or go through the trails and stuff. And so you need to be prepared for that and pay attention to that, because that also can be dangerous. I mean, we've all probably, parked our car and saw a snowbank that we have to walk over to get to the sidewalk, and we think we can walk on top of it, and all of a sudden we fall 2 feet into the snowbank. And that's okay, when I'm on a street that has hundreds of people on it, but in a forest when there's nobody, that could be quite dangerous.
Yeah, you never know what's underneath the snow. Like, there could be a void or something. That's a good thing to remember. Keep your matches in metal or not plastic container.
Yeah, and they say that because at first I was like, what's the total difference? But the reason actually is plastic can break, especially in the cold. If you hit it too hard or it hits a corner, it can snap quite easily because it's not made for cold weather, where metal, it doesn't. So again, you want your matches to stay dry regardless of what happens. So that's why they say put them in metal versus plastic.
Oh, fair enough. Or you could do some Alberta glamping, and hopefully eventually that down at Elevated Experience Camping here, we're going to eventually have some winter camping where you could come and stay in our Alberta glamping sites.
That's right.
But, that's down the road, but hopefully we can do that.
So our next tip is something I already kind of talked about, and that was that whole idea that when you go to bed, fill your water bottle up with boiling water and put it in your sleeping bag at your feet. Again, that idea that whatever you can do to keep your sleeping bag warm and your sleeping area warm while you're during the night, that is just going to make for a successful day the next day.
Yeah. The other thing you can do is take towels and take your dry towel, put it by the fire, heat it up, roll it up like a big sausage, shove it down there in there too, and it'll take that heat a little bit longer.
Nice.
Or you can get one of these. I don't know where she is, but we have small dogs. Shove them down there. It's be amazed on how much heat those little things generate. So
though they would not be happy if we took them winter camping.
Ours wouldn't. Not by a long shot. So.
No. So the next tip we have seems very obvious, but isn't, is never winter camp alone. Again, even in the summer, we can find, especially in Alberta, lots of land where your you're not near people. But in the winter, camping does reduce quite a bit, and most people are camping. There's only far and few people between the vast amount of areas you can winter camp. So it is truly important to never camp alone, even if you know the area, even if you're an expert camper. From your point of view, you should never ever camp alone.
Yes, but if you do choose, like, I know there's lots of hunters out there that do go camping by themselves, out in the woods. Just make sure you have a plan. So make sure it's detailed where you're going to be, your kind of what trails you're going to be heading on. They have some great signaling devices through GPS. They do them for us.
Search and rescue and avalanche.
Yeah, for avalanching, and then and they're very reasonable, and it just keeps a track where you've been, and you know it's easy to get turned around in a forest, especially in the winter, because everything looks even more the same because it's just brown wood, right? So.
So the next tip we have is improve your zipper pulls. Do you know what I mean by that?
Oh, I absolutely do.
Yeah, so I kind of, when I first read this, I thought, what do they mean by that? And it's really that idea that most zippers are quite small, your zipper pulls on things, and when you're wearing big gloves and that, it's very hard to do it. So most of us usually take off our gloves, do our zippers, put it back on. But again, as soon as we do that, all the nice warm air that is wrapped around our appendages seeps out.
Yeah.
So if you make your zipper pulls bigger and so that they're easy to maneuver with big thick gloves on.
Yeah, so you can do. There's a couple of ways of doing this, and the ski industry has really done this. They put tags, your ski tags on, so you can grab the ski tags. You can use zip ties. You can get extra large key rings. They can go a touch.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you have kids or no kids, or, they all do those like little,
the elastic band
and stuff. Yeah. Get them to make you some cool, fancy zipper pulls.
Yeah. Just a fun fact. Now, this is a fun fact. The ZYY, I think that's what it's called, the XYY zipper company, makes 98% of all zippers in the world. And they are, I just saw this the other day, is they have a monopoly on the zipper industry. So almost 98% of everything you own comes from that ZYY, and they're usually on their logo is on all zippers. Another tip is regulate your temperature while you're hiking. Mm-hmm. So how would you go about doing that? Again,
it's that whole idea of layering. Make sure that if you feel warm, take off a couple layers. If you feel cool, put on a couple layers. Again, if you get something wet or you sweated, make sure to exchange your clothing. And that way you can regulate your temperature.
Yeah. You know what? I know this is, and that's including bras. Like, people don't think about that. It's like when they're going winter camping is women, that's it, they get wet and you only bring one or two for most people, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's always good to have those extras for sure.
And actually a really handy tip on that is for women is baby powder. If you actually put baby powder around where it typically sweats in your bra, that will actually absorb the sweat for you and you won't sweat as much.
For sure. And our last tip for the day?
Don't cook in your tent.
Yeah, cooking in your tent is a no-go. Unless it's a cup of soup. You can, if you have a thermos full of water, but do not have open flames in your tent. Most tents now are flame resistant, but open fires or even burners inside your tent are a no-go. It's the easy way to perish pretty quick, right?
Yeah, and just even like on a side note, I know I don't want to be sleeping in something that smells like steak dinner when I know that there's coyotes and bears and all that potentially roaming the same area that I'm camping in.
Yeah, for sure. You got to, you still got to follow the same rules you would do summer camping. That's, keep your food up, hide it. For the most part, bears, you don't have to worry so much, but there is and bears still do come out in the winter. So
That's right.
it's, and we are bear country, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
since we have decided to learn a lot about winter camping, we at Elevated Experience Camping are looking at are doing a survival camp for children and young teens.
yeah, so it'll be for kids between the ages of 10 and 14.
Correct.
And it will be held. Due to COVID, we were supposed to have one at Christmas. I don't think that one's a go now.
Yeah.
We're looking into it, but then we are also doing at the every weekend in January.
Yeah. And so some of the stuff that we thought was important for that sort of young 10 to 14 age group to know if they're survival camping, or just even if they're out for a day hike with their friends or family and they get they end up getting separated. We wanted to teach them again different ways to start a fire.
Yep.
We're in a lifestyle, I guess you would say, where we just we can put chemicals on the fire to start it. We have lighters, we have and so if you're stuck out in the elements and you need some warmth, how to start a fire, but also the different techniques of to build a fire and the different kind of warmth they give off. So what are some of the different type of styles they give?
Yeah, so we do. We will show how to do the teepee style fire pit. We will show them how to do a box style fire, which is better for cooking. We will show them how to make fire starter out of very simple stuff you have at home and that you can find in the wilderness, and a secret thing about Doritos. So if you don't know, we do have another video on our channel here that you can start fires with Doritos, and so go ahead and watch that, and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Another thing we talked about is orienteering. That's almost like a lost gift.
Yeah, it is. We are going to show them how to find their way from point A back to point A, really, by going through A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, right?
Mm-hmm. And just something kind of cool and interesting to discuss. We're also looking into having an orienteering course put into Elevated Experience Campground at Willey West Campground that will be permanent, that can be used all 4 seasons.
Yeah, so you'll come down, grab a map and
compass,
and away to go. And there'll be I think there's gonna be little surprises or surprises more per se at each little checkpoint. But yeah, that's something we're looking at.
For sure. Another thing we talked about is just that outdoor cooking. We want to show young kids how to cook outdoors. And we were looking at, I know as a young girl guide, we used to use rocket stoves, Bunsen burners. I've heard them called lots of things. And so we were going to do some cooking on those with the young lads.
Yeah, we were going to show them how to, we are going to show them how to build a rocket stove from scratch, and how it will, it could be their lifeline on how to get that food cooked. Mm-hmm. And then we were this COVID. We are also in the program going to look at making with a simple thing of charcoal, rocks, and a water bottle, how to make a simple water filter, so that you could actually drink some of that water that we have going on.
River water or snow or anything like that.
Yeah, just to filter it out.
Yeah. Another thing we were looking at too is basic first aid, how you can use elements in the wilderness if somebody gets hurt as a first aid tool.
Yeah, so it will be like how to make a splint, how to make a if someone gets hurt seriously and they can make a pull behind sled, kind of, or
even simple things as you're hiking and you get blisters on your feet.
Yeah.
You know, the second last thing we were going to do was shelters, of course.
Yep.
Show them the different types of shelters, either using snow or, again, elements from the wilderness, like sticks and brush and stuff like that.
Yeah, make lean-tos and stuff.
Yeah, lean-tos. And the last thing, and I think this is kind of the most, kind of fun thing, is we were actually going to do like signaling, rescue signaling and smoke signaling.
Yeah, it's signaling can get you out of a pinch in a hurry.
Right. And I think, again, something that none of us, I mean, we've all seen it on TV, but none of us, again, if we saw a plane or a helicopter going over top, we would have no clue how to truly signal them.
Yeah. So, well, that's some good little, things to look forward to our camps. Again, sign up by calling my wife Carmen at, or emailing at carmen@elevatedexperiencecamping.com. Or there is a phone number there, 780-515-1007. Right?
Yep.
Perfect. And my name's Jason.
I'm Carmen.
Where you're doing Alberta glamping and Alberta camping.
At Elevated Experience Camping.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Happy camping.